Hello everyone, my name is Dato Masukat
And I am Rasid C. Sabay.
and we are here to tackle the 18th century European physical education and sports period of Enlightenment. Realism of 1600s was followed by the Enlightenment of 1700s, a movement that attempted to spread rationalism and knowledge to all people. In this period of Enlightenment, there was a movement that was built that its purpose is to spread rationalism and knowledge to all people. So when we say rationalism, it's about using real experience, and it's good if we share knowledge with experience, which is what we call rationalism, so that it could be effective. Number 2. Educational theories were beginning to move away from the idea that the aristocracy should be educated. They used realist theories as the starting point for many of their own. When we say aristocracy, it is a person or a group of people that highest class in certain societies. In this period of time, the educational theories was built to fade away or remove the beliefs that the right to learn is for those parts of aristocracy only. And what are those educational theories?
Enlightenment educational theories. John Locke, considered founder of the English Enlightenment because his focus on educating people through rational and natural means lead the later theories of Rousseau. John Locke is a philosopher that focused on teaching the people through rational or based on or in accordance with reason or logic. It is a kind of learning where you should only use your mind or critical thinking, not your heart nor your emotion. And it was one of the reasons why he is a founder of the English Enlightenment. Indeed, John Locke and Isaac Newton are both considered as the father of English Enlightenment. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 1712 and 1788 of France. He published two extremely influential books, and these are the Social Construct 1767 and Emily 1762.
What is Emily and social contract? The social contract expanded on his views that all humans are free and equal by nature, and that inequality appeared only after they had gotten away from nature and developed governments. According to Rousseau, freedom is not where law ends or is silent. Rather, freedom entails and begins with self-imposed law. To the contrary, rather, moral freedom, the adherence to a self-produced law, alleviates a man from his natural shackles. For him, it is through alienation that one enjoys freedom. By authentic, Rousseau essentially means how closely the life of modern man reflects the positive attributes of his natural self. In the state of nature, man is free to simply attend to his own natural needs and has few occasions to interact with other people. Emile. He wrote that the task of education was to develop all of a child's capabilities freely, as nature intended, and to avoid anything that would hamper his natural development. He wanted to let children progress naturally, learning what they wanted to learn when they were interested in learning it.
His book was considered revolt against the education and society of the day and was at first banned by the Catholic Church, then condemned by the governments. Rousseau published Emily, or On Education, in May. A famous section of Emily is the Profession of Faith of Savoyard Vicar, was intended to be a defense of religious beliefs. This religious indifferentism caused Rousseau and his books to be banned.
Johann Basedow, year 1724 to 1790, a German educator, started co-educational schools called Philantropinum, later known as Dessau Educational Institute. He was a German educational reformer, teacher, and writer. He founded the Philantropinum, a short-lived but influential progressive school, in Dessau. For information of everybody, Philantropinum is a school or institution. He also considered the founder of the physical education because he was the first teacher that used physical education or gymnastics as a part of schoolwork and summer courses. He tried to educate children without the influence of the church. and preferred to treat rather children as children rather than as small adults. Basedow believes that in state rather than religious control of education and in a pragmatic approach to teaching. He stressed modern rather than classical languages, teaching them through conversation and games. Scientific subjects such as natural history, anatomy and physics, and practical ones such as carpentry were emphasized. Physical education was an important part of the curriculum. Further, in an age when many schools were noted for their harsh discipline, Basedow held that school could be so pleasant and absorbing that punishment should be virtually unnecessary. Johann Basedow also placed a heavy stress on physical activities. The 10 hours a day in his school included 5 hours of classes, 3 hours of recreation, and 2 hours of manual labor that taught craft to the student. He also planned camping that shared some similarities with today's of outdoor education. Christian Salzman, years 1744 to 1811, greatly influenced by Basedow as he founded the Snepfenthal Educational Institute in 1875. Salzman helped Basedow to develop the school's pedagogy, or known as philanthropicism. Additional information: philanthropism was characterized by an ideal of a loving relationship of trust between children and adults, and by the idea that the education should take place joyfully and playfully. In 1794, Salzman resigned from the Philanthropinum to start his own boarding school in Snepfenthal. He believed that the school should take the form of a family, and the educator should first and foremost set a good example for his students. Salzman put much weight on the unfolding of the powers of observation and the abilities of the children to use their intellect as well as the development of their morality. For him, it was a fundamental education principle to start with what was closest to the child, and thus move from the visible to the non-visible, from things near to things farther away, and from the concrete to the abstract. Finally, physical education was seen as a very important, and Salzman upheld a focus on health, gymnastics, and manual work, or woodwork, gardening, and etc. in his teaching. He also strongly influenced the well-known physical education reformer at Snepfenthal,
John Goodsmoot, 1759 and 1839. He is thought of as the grandfather of gymnastics because he developed the basic principle of artistic gymnastics. These pictures are parallel bars, the rings, the balance beam, the horse, and horizontal bars that Johann Goodsmoot invented, which became standard equipment for gymnastics.
Johann Pestalozzi. He is the father of modern education. Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi is popularly known as the father of modern education. He promoted that it is the basic right of every individual to attain education. This right was the work of the state to impart to the people. He initiated democracy in the field of education.
He believed that the learner had to be stimulated to want to learn, and that the teacher should act as a guide rather than force the child to learn.
He saw rather education as having three aspects, and these are the intellectual, practical, and moral. Intellectual development is all about learning. It is about how individuals organize their minds, ideas, and thoughts to make sense of the world they live in. Physical development through the senses by touching, tasting, listening, and playing. Practical. Research reaffirms that the beliefs that practical education boosts a student's self-esteem, knowledge, and skills, both educationally and on the outside world, and enhances their transition into working life. Practical education means gain knowledge with practical experience. This education is mostly followed by the students. For me, Practical knowledge is the best way to gain knowledge. Practical knowledge enjoyed by the students because this is actual way of learning. Practical education is very important in schools for students as it helps in overall development of the individual, society, and the country. Moral education may be defined as helping children and young people to acquire a set of beliefs and values regarding what is right and wrong. Moral education also helps children develop the disposition to act in accordance with such beliefs and values. Moral education ensures that students are able to grasp the skill very early on. Children often don't have many responsibilities, but adults do. Moral education teaches students to take up small responsibilities so that they can develop their important skill. Additional information. His school, which is the Caronilum Zurich of Zurich, offered many physical activities including daily hour or gymnastics, 5 days each week.
Philipp von Fellenberg, 1771 and 1844, based on many of his ideas on Pestalozzi's writings and began one of first European school for vocational education, sometimes referred to as a school of manual labor. He added a classical institute for middle-class children, constructed gardens, established a printing press, and founded schools for girls and for the education of teachers. His social aim to be achieved through education was to try to raise the living condition of the poor and to weld them and the upper classes together. Friedrich Froebel, 1782 and 1852. His most important contribution to educational theory was his belief in self-activity and play as essential factors in child education. The teacher's role was not to drill or indoctrinate the children, but rather to encourage their self-expression through play, but individually in the group activities.